TikTok influencers gunned down in Mexico and Colombia, the femicide crisis. In May 2025, two young women, both rising stars on TikTok, were brutally killed in eerily similar attacks that shocked Mexico, Colombia, and the world. Their names were Valeria Marquez and Maria Jose Estupiñán. To their millions of followers, they were beauty queens, influencers, and entrepreneurs, symbols of aspiration in the digital age. But in an instant, their lives were stolen, becoming yet another reminder of the unrelenting femicide crisis in Latin America. Valeria Marquez was a 23-year-old influencer from Zapopan in the Guadalajara metropolitan area of Mexico. She was more than a pretty face on social media. Valeria was a former beauty queen, having won the Miss Roaster title in 2021, and the proud owner of her own beauty salon, Blossom the Beauty Lounge. Her TikTok and Instagram were filled with clips of fashion shoots, business tips, and beauty tutorials. She had worked tirelessly to carve out her space in an industry that celebrates image, but often hides the personal struggles behind the lens. On May 13, 2025, Valeria was live streaming from her salon, chatting with her audience, as she often did. Midway through the broadcast, she received a message from a friend named Erica. The message mentioned that an expensive gift was being delivered to her. Valeria's tone shifted, she looked uneasy, and even whispered to her viewers, "Maybe they were going to kill me." Moments later, a man in a motorcycle helmet walked into the salon, carrying a Starbucks bag and a stuffed animal. He asked, "Are you Valeria?" When she confirmed her identity, the man pulled out a gun and shot her twice, once in the chest and once in the head on live video. The chilling footage froze on the screen as thousands of viewers watched in shock. Security cameras outside the salon later showed the shooter escaping on a motorcycle, accompanied by an accomplice in a white car. Valeria was pronounced dead on the spot. Her killing, brazenly carried out in front of thousands of witnesses, sent shockwaves through Mexico. Authorities immediately opened a femicide investigation, a legal classification reserved for gender-based killings of women. Early theories pointed to a professional hitman, possibly hired by someone close to her, but no suspects had been publicly named. In the hours that followed, Mexican social media erupted. Outrage swept the nation. Hashtags demanding justice for Valeria trended globally. But in a cruel twist, victim-blaming narratives quickly surfaced. Rumors alleging ties to organized crime and conspiracies about her personal life. For many women, this was an all-too-familiar cycle. A woman is murdered, the world expresses momentary shock, and soon the narrative shifts to questioning the victim herself. Activists pointed out that Valeria had become yet another statistic in Mexico's staggering femicide epidemic, where an average of 10 women are murdered every single day, yet only a fraction of those killings are investigated or prosecuted as femicide. Just 2 days later, on May 15, 2025, tragedy struck again, this time in Cúcuta, Colombia. Maria Jose Estupiñán, known online as La Mona, was a 22-year-old university student studying communications. She dreamed of becoming a TV presenter while running small businesses on the side and building her own following on social media. Maria Jose had a warm, approachable online persona that resonated deeply with her audience. On that morning, she answered her door to a man disguised as a delivery worker. He was carrying a small package. As soon as Maria Jose confirmed her identity, the man pulled out a gun and fired multiple shots, striking her in the face and chest. She died instantly. The attacker fled the scene on foot, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions and a community in shock. Colombian authorities classified Maria Jose's murder as a femicide. Investigators quickly discovered that she had a documented history of domestic violence complaints against a former partner, dating back to 2018. In fact, just a day before her killing, she had won a court order requiring her ex-partner to compensate her for damages. Feminist groups in Colombia were quick to call her death preventable, pointing out that she had followed every step the system required, reporting the abuse, providing evidence, and requesting protection. Yet no meaningful safeguards were put in place, and within 24 hours, she was dead. The similarities between Valeria's and Maria Jose's murders were haunting. Both women were targeted using a ruse, an unexpected delivery designed to get close enough to confirm their identity. Both were young, successful, and digitally visible. Both were killed in what authorities believe were premeditated attacks carried out with cold precision. And both became posthumous symbols of a crisis that Latin America has been battling for years: the systemic and gender-based killing of women, often with impunity. Statistics paint a grim picture. In Mexico, hundreds of femicides are officially recorded each year, with thousands more homicides of women never investigated under femicide protocols. In Colombia, 886 femicides were recorded in 2024, a 7-year high. Shockingly, nearly 3/4 of femicide cases in Colombia from 2021 to 2023 remain unsolved. For activists and survivors, these numbers represent not just statistics, but a deep failure of systems meant to protect women. What makes these cases even more disturbing is the role social media played. TikTok and Instagram were the platforms that gave Valeria and Maria Jose their voices, their audiences, and their livelihoods. Yet the same exposure that made them successful may have made them more vulnerable. Their schedules were public, their locations often tagged, and their interactions constant. A simple delivery, a common occurrence for influencers who often receive gifts, products, and fan mail, became the method of their execution. The aftermath of these killings has left two grieving nations demanding answers. In Mexico, Valeria's funeral was heavily guarded. Among the many bouquets left at her service, one stood out, a wreath bearing the single word, perdón, meaning, forgive me. Authorities confiscated it as potential evidence, speculating whether it came from someone involved in her murder. In Colombia, vigils for Maria Jose transformed into protests. Feminist groups led chants of "Ni una más," not one more, demanding that the government strengthen protection measures for women. Both cases highlight the failures of the systems designed to prevent gender-based violence. Valeria reportedly had no known threats, yet her killing was carried out in broad daylight by a professional hitman. Maria Jose had repeatedly sought help, filing reports and securing court orders, yet was still unprotected when her killer arrived. Activists argue that legal frameworks against femicide are meaningless without enforcement, resources, and cultural change. For women across Latin America, these stories are all too familiar. They reflect a terrifying reality where success, fame, or even doing everything right offers no immunity against gender-based violence. The femicide crisis is not new, but these back-to-back murders, carried out in such a brazen and public manner, have reignited a sense of urgency. In the wake of these tragedies, the families of Valeria Marquez and Maria Jose Estupiñán continue to fight for justice. Investigations remain ongoing, with authorities in both countries pledging to bring the perpetrators to justice. But activists and ordinary citizens alike know that true change requires more than solving individual cases. It demands structural reforms, better enforcement of protective orders, stronger investigative units, cultural shifts away from victim blaming, and sustained public pressure to hold institutions accountable. The stories of Valeria and Maria Jose are heartbreaking reminders of the dangers women face every day in regions where gender-based violence has become a normalized threat. They were daughters, friends, creators, and dreamers whose lives were violently cut short. In their memory, activists across Latin America are rallying once more under the cry, "Ni una menos," not one woman less. These murders were not isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a deeper systemic issue, an epidemic of violence against women that shows no sign of abating without real change. As their names echo through hashtags, protests, and news headlines, we are forced to confront a stark question. How many more lives will be lost before the world takes meaningful action? Valeria Marquez and Maria Jose Estupiñán should be remembered not for the violence that ended their lives, but for the vibrant, ambitious young women they were, and for the movement their deaths have reignited. Their stories have become rallying cries in the fight against femicide, urging us to transform outrage into action, fear into justice, and loss into lasting change.